Skull and Bones can be a lot to tackle when you first embark on your Sea Dog journey. With so many ports, materials, and customization options, it can be difficult to get your sea legs. In this guide, we will discuss some helpful tips and tricks to get you plundering and pillaging ships in no time in Skull and Bones. There are several items in the waters near St. Anne, which is the first major port you will be introduced to. From torn sails, to jute, to broken planks and rusty nails, the high seas are filled with loot for you to collect early on. Coconuts aren't just floating around all the time, but while you're sailing around, collecting them with your saw can be extremely lucrative. Coconuts can give you 20% of your stamina back while sailing, but cooking them will give you 40% stamina back. Since these can be found all over the Red Isles, it's a great way for you to eat your fill anytime as you begin to run low on stamina while looting and exploring. Different materials are used to upgrade ships, acquire weaponry from the blacksmith, and even craft repair kits when you take on water at sea. We will get more into the repair kits in combat later, but for now, just be sure to look around and loot everything you see floating in the water. Around the map, you will start seeing lilac-purple ship icons on the shores of different islands as you sail around. These are shipwrecks, and using the crowbar you crafted during the tutorial, you can score some hefty loot that has been left behind. Most of the time, the shipwrecks have a bit of silver, some form of ammunition, food, and even ingots, which are all materials you will need later on to upgrade your ship. Timing the crowbar just right will allow you to break open the shipwreck faster, meaning you will get the loot quicker to move on to the next one. It is also worth mentioning that you will need to upgrade your crowbar at the carpenter to loot higher level shipwrecks, so we would recommend upgrading all the tools as soon as possible to ensure not only the ability to loot these shipwrecks, but to gather more materials at once with less effort. Also, if you absolutely hate the gathering mechanic, there is an auto harvest feature available in the game settings menu. Simply open the settings, stay within the general tab, and toggle auto harvest on to eliminate the need to click and perfect time while collecting materials. Silver is the bread and butter for becoming the most devastating pirate in all the 7 seas, as it is needed for almost everything in the game. But how do you rake in the dough when you're just starting out? Any material in your cargo that is labeled commodities is something you can sell off to vendors for a hefty price tag. But this is how you use the market to your advantage. When looking at your map, you will notice zones within the different areas as you hover around. These zones are broken up into sections, and you will notice a tab that says In Plentiful Supply and one that reads Highest in Demand. This is where you will see a list of commodities that these territories either are in need of or has a massive stockpile of. Choosing the areas with the highest demand for a specific item, such as uncut sapphire for example, will mean that the vendors within this zone will pay more than the others on the map. Fast traveling to the locations with the highest demand and selling off your product is the best way to gather silver with very little effort. More so, in both St. Anne and Talak Penjara, there are commodity vendors that sell specific commodity items that you can purchase for a lower price and sell for a higher price within the zone that needs that material. This is also a great way to play the economy and get silver without even needing to leave the safe havens and outposts. Now, of course, this one may seem like a given, but we aren't talking about upgrading from the Dow. We mean to continue to upgrade your ship as much as humanly possible in the beginning. You will need to discover outposts that have vendors who sell different blueprints for the new ships. At this time, there are 10 total ships to collect and create, and the maximum base level of any ship is level 5. You can boost that base level by adding more powerful weapons, armor, and furniture. But the most important thing is to keep growing with your environment to keep up with the enemies in the new zones. The shipwright is your go-to for upgrading to the next best ship, and each one comes with both ship type and perks depending on the vessel. Take the Sentinel for example. This handy ship is a support type that aids friendly ships if they begin taking damage while you're around. When working with a team, a support ship helps out significantly to turn the tides in battle in your favor by repairing your boat without any repair kits. This ship's perk is that it will restore severe damage by 0.5% and hull health by 0.5% per second, which may not seem like a lot until you're bombarded by several ships in all directions. This boost of restoration can be the difference between you meeting Davy Jones and living to pillage another day. There are also tanking ships, straight DPS ships, and more options to cater to your favorite playstyle. Before you get your bearings, it is a bit scary to attack the random enemy ships that you'll spot sailing around. But this is a huge step to not only rake in some serious silver, but also to loot materials you may not have access to by other means. This includes bronze ingots and higher quality refined items such as fine jute or Orogo planks. These are needed to craft the higher level ships, so you will want them in abundance. Not only that, These materials are used in creating more powerful weaponry that you're going to want as soon as possible to help you take on high-level foes. Taking on ships within your level range or higher can be a sure way to sink at sea if you aren't bracing in time and being very careful. We would recommend attacking lower level ships when you start out, meaning between levels 1 and 3, in order to raise your infamy rank and collect as much as you can in order to upgrade and enhance your vessel. From our testing, you still get a decent amount of infamy for taking on ships much weaker than you, so really, there is no loss in just picking on the little guy to bolster your boat. Fire! One other thing to mention would be the repair kits, as they become crucial later on. These kits can be looted or crafted, and you will want as many in your cargo as possible while taking on other ships in the water. They do have a hefty cooldown though, so be sure to use them wisely to turn the tide in any battle. Speaking of weaponry, blueprints are at the center of becoming the most fearsome pirate to ever sail the 7 seas. These are crafted by the blacksmith in St. Anne, and while you can purchase some of the weapon blueprints from him, other vendors have some to offer as well. You'll want to stop by every outpost possible and check what blueprints might be available, as they can be home to some of the most powerful cannons and even ballistas. There are massive amounts of weapons in the arsenal to choose from, so don't get overwhelmed when you're first starting. Choosing the blueprints that the blacksmith has to offer is a fine way to start, and as you explore and complete bounties and contracts, you will be able to scour vendors to find better ones along the way. Almost every single vendor, including the shipwright, will need certain blueprints to craft items, ships, weapons, and even meals. So keep an eye out for these as you continue to progress. Learning to control your ship can sometimes be a task as a new pirate, and turning out of incoming fire and flame can be the difference between life and death sometimes, so mastering the controls is vital to survival in the briny depths. You want to lower your sailing speed when you try to make turns, as it's much easier to control your ship at lower knots. Not only that, you will want to make sure that you pay attention to the little arrow next to your speed at the bottom right-hand corner of your UI. This arrow will turn red when you're sailing against the wind, meaning you are going to be heavily slowed down. When it turns white, that means you will be able to go moderate speeds, and are almost going with the flow of the wind. When the arrow turns green, that means you have taken the wind within your sails, and will go as fast as the ship you have allows. Try to always be with the wind, not against it, or not only will you waste stamina as you attempt to traverse the gale force enemy at your back, you will take much longer to reach your destination. Speaking of stamina, it is a fickle feature to maintain while cruising around the water. Stamina is needed to go max speed, so if you run out, you will automatically be lowered to the second notch on the speed wheel. Always keep some form of food on you to make sure that you can consistently be at max stamina. Whether it be cooked coconuts, durian, or fish, it can save you from some sticky situations. Make sure to add food to your quick action bar in order to eat it quickly while you're trying to escape an enemy. And that's going to do it for these quick helpful hints to get started on the right peg leg in Skull and Bones. For more, head on over to our growing wiki pages, and as always, for all things gaming, stick with IGN.